Welcome to a special edition of JMC Live. This week we have Jan. She is a former porn star, and the encompassment of saying the word porn star goes way beyond what the average person thinks. So many people are used to what they see on a film for 5 or 10 minutes, or a photo, or a voice, but they don't realize of the amount of hours and time put in for such scenes, what physically happens to a man or woman, and what mentally happens. You're going to learn about her life story today on the show, and I want to welcome you, Jan. I hope everything's going well in Texas, and I miss being in Texas. Maybe one day I'll come back. Welcome you to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you miss Texas. You can have it.
So you don't like Texas much, huh?
You know, it's just a whole different world from what I'm used to. I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm out here in the boonies, basically. Fort Hood, Texas, there's not much to do, and it's definitely different from a big city life, so.
Yeah, I bet it is. I have some friends that have been on the bases on and off throughout the years, and they just drive to Dallas or Houston on an off time because they're really, like you said, there's anything to do. Summer you go swimming, maybe you go fishing, but that's about it, really.
Yeah, or see a movie or go bowling and play bingo.
Yeah, the base movies, that's not too bad. I remember getting soda and popcorn a movie for $4.50. It wasn't bad. If you wanted to wait for a movie to be out for a while.
Right.
Well, Jan, I thought we'd start with your childhood growing up and then what led you into the industry in the beginning. I know we picked the date of 1998, that you were 19, starting off and on between escort work in Chicago and massages and dominatrix work. You want to tell us what led you into that lifestyle?
Sure. Well, I was raised in a broken home. My parents divorced when I was 3 years old. It's just my sister and I and my mom, basically. My dad was a weekend dad, if that, and things were really hard. My mom was on public assistance, and she had a minor disability, and we just struggled, and we struggled a lot. And being raised in the inner city of Chicago is not an easy task, especially for a young girl who doesn't have the affection and attention that she wants from her daddy. Also not having that protection and advice from a father to say, look, stay away from these kind of boys. My mom's explanation of sex and abstinence was, don't do it. You know, boys just want to get in your pants. But there was never a thorough explanation of, you know, intimacy and what marriage is supposed to be and why. It was basically stemming from her past as well, that she just wanted me to stay away from boys. Well, that didn't happen. My virginity was taken by rape at the age of 13. It was by a guy who I thought, you know, loved and cared for me, but obviously that wasn't true. He befriended me, and I felt like I could share my world with him because I didn't have anybody else that I could really go to in the form of, you know, male comfort. And also, I was raised in church. I actually accepted Jesus Christ into my heart at the age of 7. You know, I still didn't understand what it meant to have a loving Father in heaven who was never going to let you go, who was always going to be there for you, and love and comfort you like no other man could. And so I became very promiscuous, started smoking cigarettes, going to house parties, underage drinking. Basically, by the time I was 15, I had met my high school sweetheart, and he was a sick puppy. I mean, he was wounded and on the curb, basically, and I felt sorry for him. My heart poured out to him because he was a victim of abuse. His mother had kicked him out of the house and had been kicking him out of the house since he was like 8 or 9 years old. He had also been a victim of some sexual abuse by a male relative of his when he was younger. And he had nowhere to go. He was homeless. And so after begging and pleading with my mom to take him in, she did. And, you know, we were very sexually active. And needless to say, I got pregnant at the age of 17. I was petrified. You know, basically I felt like my life was over. And I I had already seen the immaturity in my then boyfriend, who became my ex-husband, and I knew that he probably was not the ideal choice for a long-term husband and, partner, but I felt stuck. And my mom had basically told us, well, you're not going to live together under my roof until you get married. And so we did. We had no choice. And plus, we both wanted to be married before our daughter came into the world. He wouldn't keep a job. I mean, it was almost impossible for him to get a job or to keep one. By the age of 19, trying to go back to school, I had gotten my GED and was trying to go to college for nursing at the time to get some prerequisites out of the way. I was just overwhelmed. I needed some extra income, and I opened up the Yellow Pages and started looking for temporary jobs, but had basically found a whole section, like 25 pages or more, about escorting. And so I called one of the ad agencies, and the woman was very nice on the other end of the phone. She was very convincing, told me that I'd be well taken care of, just to come in and speak to her. And so shortly after that, I started doing dominatrix work and topless massage. And once in a while, I would escort. And my ex-husband was actually my driver, because he didn't want to work. So he really had no issues with the fact that I was doing these things, as long as I was bringing in the money.
So your ex-husband, he had no problem with this. I know we talked about the year 1998, the on and off again.
Mm-hmm.
You would have a situation where he wasn't working, you would need help, and he wouldn't follow through, and you would just go ahead and jump into those positions. Sometimes the work was short, sometimes it was long.
Right.
And
it was basically just a financial filler, basically to fill in the gaps. It was something that I just turned to when I was in desperate need of money. I mean, I didn't have the resources that I needed. Nobody in my family was in a financial position to help me out, and by the time I was 20, I already had our 3 children. So it was a lot. It was a lot for me to handle, and I was basically handling it by myself. So, even though I was married at the time, I had a husband who just was completely worthless. Didn't help me out with the kids, didn't help me out around the house, and so I felt like I was just stuck between a rock and a hard place consistently. And again, had completely fallen away from church and even going to God the way that I should have been. I mean, I still didn't fully grasp the idea of what it meant to have that Father in heaven who was going to take care of me no matter what. It was very hard for me to conceive that idea, looking at my circumstances and letting them dictate my life. So I stayed in the adult industry off and on, and then I stopped it completely when I had a falling out with, I guess you could call her a madam. Basically, she wanted me to do more, and just some weird stuff like parties and orgies and things like that, and I just absolutely refused to do that. So she kicked me out of her office and told me never to come back again. At that point, I had been working as a CNA, and I was still working, but it still wasn't enough. But I didn't go back to the actual sex industry until 2006. So there was about a period of, 4 years, almost 5 years, where I didn't do any of that type of work.
so what kind of mindset did you have to have? Because you said you would go in and out, so I'm assuming it's kind of like the angel on one side, devil on the other side. It's like, should I keep doing it, should I not? What did you have to do to prepare for these things? I know later on, in 2006, you started getting into the drugs, but before that, from 98 to 2006, what did you honestly had to do to prepare for this?
It's just, I put my subconscious on a shelf. I didn't even think about it. That was the only way to get through it, was pure survival mode. The good thing about being raised by a very independent, strong African-American woman was you're not going to put up with any BS. I don't care who brings it your way. You're going to do what you have to do and get it done. Of course, my mom never influenced me directly to get into the sex industry or anything like that. It was just something that was innate. It was in my nature to survive no matter what, and to provide for my children no matter what. I didn't want to become a victim of the state. I didn't want, to end up in a homeless shelter. I didn't want to experience those things that I had experienced as a child. And I was willing to do anything and everything, obviously, to make sure that that didn't happen.
So on and off again, you were just trying to protect your kids, and you were trying to protect yourself, and in the sense of that, you still ended up running in the wrong direction.
Right.
And then things started to get worse when you went back into the industry because you couldn't mentally mask it anymore. I mean, yeah, you hid it from the kids, you may have hid it from other people that knew you, but then you started drinking.
Right.
And then the drinking led to other things.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, well, I mean, my journey into the porn industry was justified by my desperation to feed my children. I mean, that was the bottom line. I was desperate. When I got into the porn industry, I had no idea of the type of monster I was about to enter into. There was no formal education about the industry. There was, no free speech coalition there to protect me and protect my rights and explain the porn industry and how it worked. The adult medical aim, as it was a complete joke. I mean, they gave me such a false sense of security as to, what I was going to be tested for and what I was going to be exposed to, that I just really had no clue. I mean, and I am an intelligent woman. I'm not going to say that, I was totally naive. Yeah, I knew that I was going to be selling my body for money on film, but I had no idea about the different amounts of abuse that goes on behind the scenes. I didn't know about the emotional, mental, and physical abuse that went on behind the scenes. And I got into the porn industry, and it was crazy. I had to constantly be this character, this demonic Elizabeth Rawlings. I lost sight of Jan Meza. I lost sight of who she really was. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't, I wasn't a good parent. I wasn't a good mother in the form of being there for my kids, even though I justified what I was doing in order to take care of them. I was constantly driving from Las Vegas to California in order to do films, and sometimes I would fly to New York and other states. Basically, wherever the money was is where I went, and I just lost track of days and times, and started going into parties, and then you have to spend all the money that you get on living up to this persona that everybody thinks you're supposed to be, this glamorous lifestyle that doesn't exist. Porn is not glamorous. It's not some great fantasy lifestyle that you're living. It's hell. It's hell on earth. And, producers started using me. They wanted me to have sex with them on the side. Agents wanted me to have sex with them on the side. It was all just a big game to them. They didn't care the destruction that they were wreaking in your life. They didn't care what you went through personally. As long as they made $1 off of you, that was all they cared about. Their bottom line was that you were bringing them in money. And the minute that you started giving them a hard time about that, or standing up for your rights, or saying, but isn't this the way that you should be treating me? You were out. You were blacklisted. And you were never going to be able to work again. And to any girl who is desperate for money, especially if she's a single mom, you're going to want to keep making those paychecks. So it just came to a point where I couldn't handle it anymore. I was numb. I was void. I was tired. And I didn't know if I was Elizabeth Rawlings or Jan Meza, from one day to the next. And so I just started drinking and smoking pot and taking painkillers. I mean, I had some already for minor back issues from working off and on in the medical industry for so long as a CNA, but it's not like drugs and alcohol were ever hard to come by. Producers and agents always have it ready on the set. As soon as I got there, do you need something to drink? Do you need some bud? What do you need? What do you need to relax? And they also use that as a tool to get more scenes out of the girl. A lot of the times they tell you that you're going to go to the scene to do, just like a simple boy-girl. You get there, and it's some kind of hardcore anal gangbang. And if you don't do it, guess what? You're not going to get paid. So any girl who wants that money, again, she's going to do what they're telling her to. And, of course, this is all off camera. You're never going to see this on camera. And And, I mean, yeah, you see some hardcore stuff on camera, but, you know, they want to keep their abuses secretive. So, I mean, again, you know, people only see that 30 to 40-minute finished product. They don't see the 2 to 4 hours that goes on behind the scenes and what these girls are physically and mentally and emotionally having to go through, you know, and sometimes the men, too, in order to make this money.
And elaborate a little more on this for me. A lot of people get in porn, they're not gay, they're straight, but they'll do a gay scene, or they'll do all the gangbangs, and they do all this stuff, and the noises they hear, and the facial expressions, and the words being said, it's either pre-scripted with someone holding a sign up, telling you to have an orgasm, or say these words, but it's normally fake. No one's really doing anything, it's just an act.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I've never once in my entire time in the industry had an orgasm. It's all fake. There's like scenes that they call squirter scenes, you know, or there's so much fake in the industry. I mean, that's all the industry is. It's a fake, made up lie in order to make money. People do not care. People in the porn industry, the producers, the agents, the companies, they do not care about human value. They don't care about the porn stars. They don't care about the porn actors. They don't care about the porn addicts. All they care about is that you're making them money. They don't care what porn does to a person's life. There were so many times where I was in pain, and the producer would actually just stop the scene and say, okay, look, we don't need you to show that you're, you know, in pain. We need you to make it more believable. We need you to make it so that people know you're enjoying yourself. So instead of saying ow or stopping the scene, you know, just moan harder, just moan louder, you know, and any kind of safe word that anybody thinks you can use in the porn industry is a total lie, too. There is no safe word. They'll just keep rolling. They don't care how much pain you're in. They don't care if they split you. They don't care if they cut you, if they bruise you. They don't care what happens to you. You're nothing but a product to them. And they're going to just keep using that product until it's no good anymore.
Yep. I know a lot of people, though, that they do the scenes and they get cut. That's how they get their STDs. If they do anal scenes, they end up having what's called a prolapse, where everything just falls out. Mm-hmm. Some women, they'll do what you said, the gangbang scenes, which is multiple men in a scene. They'll have, and I don't know the medical term for it, you can fill me in, where their ovaries fall out or the vagina just completely inverts itself, and you can't use the bathrooms, you can't pee and poop properly. You're sore because you have to hold yourself in weird positions, and then you have the whole issue with bodily fluids going on. This AIM company is not properly testing people. They'll test for AIDS, but what about everything else? And then the furniture or the objects and things used, how do you know it's sanitary? It's not. When one scene's done, someone else comes in and jumps right in and uses the same places and the same things, and it goes on over and over and over again. And I know in the prime of your porn industry, you're presented with a website, and the website is still going on, and other people are still doing things. And like you said, it's like you've become an object. You're like become sex trafficked. I cannot say to this day that I've ever met a current porn star or an ex-porn star or anyone in the sex industry who can honestly tell me that they have not been bought in some format.
Right. Well, you're a slave, and there's no way to sugarcoat it. There's no easier way of saying it. You are nothing more than a slave. Everybody has a price on their head. You know, some people get paid more, some people get paid less, but you're not a person. You have no real name. You know, you're just that object. You're just that point of, you know, fantasy that people can relate to, but you know, it's not real. I mean, these porn addicts don't understand what these people are going through, you know, and they don't care because all they care about is what they see and believe on camera to be real, and it's far from the truth.
Exactly. So as this continued to go on and on and on, things got worse with your drinking, things got worse with the medication, and then you had a nervous breakdown, and you're in the ER. What were your thoughts at this time? And finally, everything just built up to a point where you can't deal with the industry. You don't know what you're going to do, how you're going to deal with your kids. You don't know how you're going to find another job. Everything just kept piling on you. What happened?
Well, the lead up to that, honestly, what started as the breaking point was the gangbang scene that I did. I did a 25-guy gangbang scene, and people right away would be like, oh my God, holy crap, I would never allow myself to be put through that. But I was so far gone already into alcohol and drugs and, wanting to numb out and void myself of the lifestyle that I was living, the job that I had. I mean, because it is a job. That when the agent and producer came to me and approached me about the movie, they basically played it off as like, look, you're going to get $4,000 to do the scene. We're going to pay you this money, but you're not going to actually have to, sleep with all 25 guys, and then the preparation that I actually had to go through for this scene, I didn't know what to expect because I had never before done anything like that. Especially not in my private life, even though I was married before. I had to cleanse my body, so basically I just kept taking the colon cleansers, and I didn't eat. I just kept drinking alcohol. I just wanted to numb myself completely. I got completely high, and what's so funny about the porn industry is that they will film you and they will ask you if you are well aware of what you're about to participate in. And every single person, of course, is going to say yes. But I guarantee you at least 90% of those people that say yes are high or doped up on something or have been drinking or have no idea where they're even at that day. When I got there, the producer basically told me, well, I know I said you weren't going to have to sleep with these guys, but, we're just going to make it look good. And then he just kept saying that we're going to make it look good. And he told the guys, too, you're going to respect her and all this other stuff. And if she says stop, just stop, But nobody did. And so I'm thinking, too, that all of these guys are safe, that all of them already work in the industry, and have experience. Well, that wasn't the case either. So after the scene is done, and I've just slept with 25 guys, and I've been hit, I've been punched, I've been slapped around, my hair is crazy, and I am miserable, I am in pain, even being high. I just wanted to get the hell out of there. All these guys are coming up to me saying, can they take their picture with me? And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So here I am laying in body fluids, covered from head to toe, and these guys are coming up to me, these so-called professionals who have been, in the industry for so long are coming up to me and asking me for my picture, and I'm like, why? Well, I come to find out after the scene that these guys weren't actually, most of them weren't actually people who had worked in the industry. They weren't employees. They were people who had been answering an ad to come and sleep with their favorite porn star. And I was devastated. I mean, devastated isn't even the right word. I was petrified because I'm thinking, oh my God, what did I just get? That was my first thought. Did I just get AIDS? What did I just open up myself to? Because I trusted this agent and this porn company to do their jobs and to protect me like they said they were going to. And who knows? I mean, that's probably the day that I did get herpes. But thank God it wasn't something worse. And that was the breaking point for me. I mean, I couldn't go to the bathroom right after that for like 2 weeks. I couldn't even walk right. I didn't even want to get out of bed for the next couple of days. I didn't want to move. I was just sick to my stomach of what had just happened. And I had been meeting with a guy, a husband and a wife team, basically, who wanted to open up a BBW network. BBW stands for Big Beautiful Woman, and that's the niche that I was in. And they promised me that I'd be their number one starlet. I'd be their number one girl. My trust was shot, but obviously I wanted to be my own boss. And they promised me that I could be my own boss, and so I trusted that. I started working closely with them, getting the website together, and basically helping them find people. I worked for them for hours on end daily on this website, editing things, and it wasn't even maybe about 2 months or so that Dutch, the guy who ran the website, started propositioning me for sex on the side while his wife was downstairs. And basically, just like every other porn producer and agent, he used it as a tool to get more scenes out of me, but also just to satisfy his selfish needs for sex. I can't think of any producer that I've ever really come across that wasn't trying to get me to do some kind of escort work, which they call privates, on the side for more money for them, playing it off as if it's going to be more, money for me. And it was just very emotionally and mentally draining and abusive. And after a while, I saw that, number one, I wasn't my own boss. I wasn't in charge. He was still very much in charge. He had basically become my pimp. And, his wife was too weak to say anything about it. She wouldn't do anything about it. And I told him I had had enough. And when I did, all hell broke loose. He told me that I was going to keep working for him or else. That he had a couple of $1,000s to burn in a courtroom against me. He knew that I had nothing to show for my time in the porn industry. All of these girls who say they love what they're doing, it's a total lie. Most of them, the majority, I would say at least 95% of them have nothing to show for their time in the porn industry. Most of them are struggling, either that or it gets burned up and their different addictions or clothes or whatever it may be. So like I said, the threats just worsened, and I had the nervous breakdown. I didn't know what else to do. I went into the emergency room and just told them I was under a lot of stress. I didn't obviously want them checking me in because I was suicidal because I had kids to take care of. So when I came home after a couple of hours of spending in the ER, I just got down on my knees and I just started crying out to God. And I was just like, Lord God, you have to save me or this is it. I don't know what else to do, And I just cried out to him and cried out to him. And I went online and Googled porn help. And that's when I found Shelley Lubin. And she didn't have the Pink Cross Foundation at the time, but she had already been helping people in the sex industry for about 7 or 8 years. And she just immediately started reaching out to me with love and sending me care packages and gift cards to help me and my children and, asking me what she could do to help me find work. And it was just amazing, her love. I mean, it was just Jesus Christ walking. I mean, it really was. She just exemplified everything that Jesus speaks about, about taking on his hands, his feet, being his hands, his feet, and his mouth, and just showing me love and support.
Yeah, that's the one thing amazing about Shelley is she really, in today's society, at least where I come from, being from Texas and moving up here in the northern states and going over to California and being overseas in Africa, a lot of people that say that they're involved in ministry, a lot of people will say they're Christians. When you have a need and you cry out for help, you're normally ignored.
Right.
Whether it's online, on Facebook or Twitter, or if it's even in public. If you're sick, people don't want to deal with you. If you're an ex-porn star wanting to get out, they certainly don't want to deal with you. It's like you have the plague. The thing about Shelley is she realizes that there's this firewall. For those that are familiar with the word firewall on computers, there's this big barrier that is up when people have been hurt, especially porn stars. People that have been involved in the sex industry, any form, whether it's prostitution, dominatrix works, massage, spas, online stuff, whatever you want to call it. Anyone who's been sexually abused, raped, molested, all of them face the similar ideology of I can't trust anyone.
Right.
And when you have this mistrust for someone, it's going to take a long period of time of work trying to communicate to someone who says they want help, but at the same time you're going to have to prove to them that you're really saying what you're wanting to do. Because you got to realize people that have been hurt have to allow you to prove a longer time set period on whether or not and how you're going to reach them. So Shelley will start talking to people, writing them every day, literally, sending them messages, and it just keeps going and going and going until finally that love barrier goes through.
Right.
And that's what happened with Jan and Jenny and the others, is that a level was finally reached where someone could get help. Someone could really step in there and say they really care. And that's what Shelley does. She ends up giving them the option. So once you finally started talking to Shelley, and you said you wanted to get out and you trusted her, what was the next step for you, Jan?
What was amazing about that is that a lot of the girls who get out, even Shelley, had this long time frame of healing. I didn't have that, and I think it was just God's funny way of saying, okay, look, you were raised in church, you know me, you have this foundation, now it's time to take your cross, pick it up, stop complaining, and go back and reach these people who have been through the same things that you're going through now, and who have been through the same things that you have been through before. It wasn't just a testimony of what I had been through in the porn industry, but my whole life. You know, I often joke and say that my life is nothing short of a CBS after-school special, and that's true. You know, just the different experiences that I've had. Like I said, Shelley hadn't had the Pink Cross Foundation, but I got out in October of 2007, and in January of 2008, Shelley was like, actually right before that, she's like, hey, I want to go to this year's AVN, you know, which I had been to before, but as Elizabeth Rollings. And she's like, I want you to reach out with me to people, because I was in Las Vegas, and that's where it takes place. And for those who don't know, AVN is the largest porn convention, and they also have like an adult awards ceremony. I guess you can call it like a pornographic Oscars type of thing. And I was just taken back. I was like, wow. Okay, and I hadn't actually even met Shelley at that point. We had just been corresponding via email and letters and things like that. But right away, I just felt like God put it on my heart, because I had, you know, fully been in church again and trying to pursue a relationship with Christ again, to just go ahead and do it. My life was still very much a blur. I was on the verge of just being homeless and all kinds of stuff, but I wanted to be faithful, and more importantly, I wanted people to know the truth, the devastating truth behind the fantasy of pornography. And so me and Shelley, we didn't have a booth. You know, we didn't have any of that. We didn't have our T-shirts or fancy bags. You know, we basically just went in there with the love and truth of Jesus Christ and our testimonies. And we just started handing out like little goodie bags with some information about porn and STDs, and you know, sharing our lives with people. And it was so amazing to have all these people come up to me and go, hey, Elizabeth Rollings, and for me to turn to them and say, no, I'm out of the industry and into the ministry now. And it was just such a freeing feeling. I mean, I've been working with Shelley ever since that day. I've never once thought, even after catching, you know, or finding out that I had herpes and chlamydia from the porn industry, I never once thought, okay, this is something that I'm going to keep to myself. Yeah, it was a struggle, and yeah, it's hard to, you know, go out there and just constantly relive my trauma over and over and over again, but it's so worth it at the end of the day for somebody to come up to me in tears and just say, thank you, you touched my life, and I'm never going to be the same. Thank you for telling me the truth, and for these girls to just hug my neck and love on me and know that somebody truly does care about them, somebody does understand them, because I didn't have that. And to know that they're not alone, and to know that they do have outlets and resources, and somebody who will just pray with them. You know, they don't have to be out there like me. It's hard. I'm not going to lie, it's hard to go out there, but, you know, just for them to be able to have that lifeline to say, please pray for me today, or can you send me, you know, can you help me with my resume, or can you send me resources in my area, or can you just come and give me a hug? You know, that's why Shelley is there. That's why I do what I do when I can. You know, it's important for the Pink Cross to be there for these people and to make them understand that we don't hate them. We don't hate who they are. They are beautiful, and they are made for greater things than pornography, for the lives that pornography has for them. You know, it's just the industry. The industry wants to destroy them, and we want to save them from that.
Yeah, and I know that you and Shelley, you get the packages out to people, and you go to the industries, and there's a lot of phone calls are made, a lot of trips are made, and a lot of people come together. Even though it's a small team, there's like so many people are being affected every day and every year, and it's an amazing event that happens where people that society say does not deserve a second chance, God says you do.
Exactly.
And on that note, Jan, I want you to tell all the listeners right now, I know there's someone that's listening to these interviews that we've done that is either struggling with porn, struggling with masturbation, is having an affair, Some of you have been in the industry, others are in the industry, and I'm talking about prostitution, working at a spa, online sexual activity, or actually making films. Some of you are saying, I still don't get it, I still want to do what I'm going to do, or the other side is saying, I'm hurting, I don't know how to get out, what do I do? What advice do you give to the both sides of people right now listening?
Well, first of all, it is a choice. I mean, we can go out there, the Pink Cross can go out there, Shelley can go out there, I can go out there until we're blue in the face and talk our heads off and, share our testimony and the great things that God has done to restore our lives and what we went through in the porn industry. But it is ultimately that person's choice, and I hope and I pray daily that people who hear this and who see the Pink Cross know right now, this day, that they do have other options. They do have an outlet. If they can't to Jesus Christ, if they can't turn to Jesus Christ right away, that's fine. You don't have to. A stipulation, there is no stipulations to going to the Pink Cross website and Shelley Lubin for help. You don't have to be a Christian in order to go to the website and say that you need help. You don't have to. Of course, ultimately, we are Christians first and foremost, but we're also humanitarians, and we want to protect and save lives from the destruction of porn. I just want everybody to know that we love them. I love them. I don't know who you are, but I know that you're my brother and sister in Christ, and I want you to know that you don't have to keep living the lives that you're living. You don't have to keep destroying your lives. You don't have to keep letting addiction have a hold on you, because you are made for greater things than that. Jesus Christ died for you, and He loves you, and He wants you to have more than what you could possibly ever see for yourself. There is more than porn. There is more than this glorified fantasy that doesn't exist. It's not real. Porn is not glamorous. I know what it's like to be profited off of. I know what it's like to be objectified, and I will not stop sharing my testimony and loving you. I will not stop going out there and bringing the truth to people who need to hear it and to know it, because porn is a lie, and nobody should be taking part of it. Nobody should have to subject themselves to this type of destruction.
You're exactly right, Jan, that everyone has a choice today. Everyone has an option. It doesn't matter how far down you go, you still have a chance. And you'll always have a chance. So give Jan and Shelley and those that are willing to listen, tune out all those that are not wanting to help, and focus only on those that want to help you, and your life can be changed. Thank you, Jan, for your testimony. We love you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a great time listening to your testimony, and we know God has a lot more great things in store for you. Do you know what the future for Jan's life is, besides hubby being in Afghanistan and you having the kids? You know anything else going on with the Pink Cross and you for the future?
Actually, I do know that Adult Con is coming up again. And if anybody wants to find out how they can help and volunteer, don't think that it's just a financial thing. You can always give books, Christian CDs, pamphlets, things of that nature, jewelry, makeup, whatever it may be. Even prayer, being a prayer partner is so huge to the foundation and to me and to other women and men who have been affected by pornography. Please go to the Pink Cross website, pinkcross.org, and check into what's going on in the calendar, or you can go to ShelleyLubin.com and find out what's going on there as well. But AdultCon is coming up, and I know that they are in desperate need right now of donations in any way, shape, or form, especially financial, in order to get a booth and make that happen.
All right, and people want to get a hold of you, Jan. How can they get a hold of you?
The best way would either be to go on my Facebook, and they can just look me up by looking up Jan Meza, M-E-Z-A, or they can go through the Pink Cross, obviously, if they want to remain anonymous, or they can email me. I'm always open to getting an email and having some encouragement. My email address is januaryisback, all one word, at yahoo.com.
januaryisback@yahoo.com. Or thepinkcross.org, or you can find her at Jan Meza, Meza, on Facebook.com. Thanks again, Jan, and we hope to have you back soon. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.